I just completed doing 2025 O-Level E-Math papers, and as a founder of a Math Tuition Center in Singapore, here's my honest review of this year's papers. For context, I've been teaching secondary 4 students yearly since 2011, which also means I've attempted all the past 14 actual O-Level papers. If there are any major takeaways from this year's O-Level papers, especially if you're a secondary 1 to secondary 3 student, first is that statistics is becoming very important as a topic not just in O-Levels but as well as in PSLE. Drilling on actual O-Level past year papers are no longer enough for you to secure the A1. You need to also drill on a mixture of more difficult papers such as past year prelim school papers. Last but not least, the easiest questions are usually the trickiest questions, so always be careful. Not going to lie, when I first looked at the papers, I thought that they looked really easy until I started to attempt it and I realized all the easier questions are actually questions that are full of traps. For instance, paper 1 question 2 looks like a primary school question, but actually it's not, because primary school students are always taught to round down and use that value to actually find the answer. In this case, we actually need to use the excess to be able to find the number of schools as well. And I'm not too sure whether anyone felt the same way as I did. When I was doing paper 1, at one point in time I was questioning myself, am I doing a math paper or am I doing an English paper? Because there was one full page that we need to write so many sentences for the explanation questions, and they're not really math, they're actually logic questions. Paper 1 question 12, such an interesting question. So far, I've seen different variations of answers from different tutors. I'm curious, what are your answers for this question actually? The biggest trap of all, paper 2 question 6. 6A requires you to change your calculator to radian mode, and 6B requires you to change your calculator back to degree mode. And if you realize, it's a 7 mark for 6A and it's a 6 marks for 6B. So imagine if you didn't change your calculator mode to the correct mode, right? And I'm pretty sure students who take A-Math this year must be pretty happy about this year's paper, because most of the questions that are tested in E-Math are actually overlap topics in A-Math as well, and A-Math students will be pretty strong in all these questions. And wow, this year's probability questions are so difficult unlike the past 14 years of probability questions. And it really makes me question, is just doing O-Level actual papers enough to prepare students to get A1 now? I feel like you actually need practices from prelim papers that are tougher so that you can actually get all these type of questions correct. The good thing is, most of the questions are rather manageable. They are just built upon the fundamental and the basic concept that you should know for E-Math. However, having said that, most of the topics are unpredictable. For example, there's no vector, no bearing, no angle, elevation, depression, number pattern, sketching of quadratic graph that always come out every year. It didn't come out this year. Plotting of the graph in paper 2, functions of graph. So there are many things that didn't appear this year as well. All in all, I really like that this year's O-Level papers are very relevant to real life scenario. For example, the real world context question is about charging of EV cars, and there are a lot of statistical type of questions which are very relevant for us to understand data in real life scenario. How about you? What do you like or dislike about this paper?